This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We're honored to continue and share the teachings of the founding father of science of epigenetics, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is...
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. Go ahead and open up that waiting room and let people in, as yes, we are a live Zoom. And if you would like to join us, make sure you send us an email, zoom@dailywithdoc.com, and we will make sure that you get on the list to be able to join us here live Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific, 1 to 2 Mountain, 2 to 3 Central, 3 to 4 Eastern. And if you're somewhere else, just use your favorite search engine and ask, what time is it in my time zone at 3 p.m. Eastern? So thank you. This program is being sponsored by dailywithdoc.com, where you're going to find more encouraging, empowering information, including the good foods, bad foods list and some of our previous programming on our website. Make sure that you sign up for our email list. And what else? If you were invited by somebody specific, make sure that you get back with them. They are your number one point of contact. They cared enough about you. You really want to make sure you get back with them, tell them thank you, and also share with them what you liked best about what you heard on our program, whether it's today or any day. Also, make sure that you subscribe to our channels, no matter what platform you're on, and follow us. If there's a way to comment, we do have a team that's watching those comments and questions. Make sure that you comment. Right now, tell us where you're joining us from. And if you have any questions along the way, they can bring them into the Zoom and we will get questions answered. If we do not get to your questions, email us questions@dailywithdoc.com. But again, get back with the person that shared this program with you, as they are the one who cared the most about you to make sure you had more knowledge and information about what you can do to help yourself. Now, today I am super honored as we are welcoming back a gem in the health and wellness world. And we're going to be talking more about the brain and how the brain is a social organ. Have you guys ever heard that? A social organ. So Jill brings such clarity. This is Jill Hewlett, everybody. She brings such clarity and compassion to the conversation around the brain, the nervous system, and the way that we're designed to connect. And today she's joining us to talk about the powerful and often overlooked truth that the brain is not meant to function in isolation, but as a social organ. So Jill, thank you so much for joining us, as she is a brain fitness expert. And I absolutely love that. Brain fitness. We think of the whole body except for the brain, yet the brain is one of the most important parts. It tells everything else what to do.
Absolutely. Well said. Our brain is the CEO of our life. It's literally the head honcho. It's involved in every thought, feeling, and action, consciously and subconsciously, when we're awake and when we're asleep. So yeah, we need to care for it. We need to understand it, care for it, and have strategies to do so. And of course, in longevity, with food and nutrition, you are covering that basis. And I think in our conversation, we're just going to round out that conversation a little bit more to give people more context and techniques and strategies they can implement for their brain fitness.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And you are a true believer in nutrition as well. And we're going to hear more about that and what brought you even closer to believing in the importance of nutrition later in the show. But as we're starting today off, why is our brain a social organ?
That's a perfect place to start because there's a proverb, an old African proverb actually, that says, on our own, we may be able to go faster, but with each other, we can go farther and accomplish more. So, first of all, looking at our ability to socialize and cooperate and communicate and work together with others, we can see what we can accomplish. We can see that in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our organizations. We need to work together as a team. The reality is, though, we are here today because we have ancestors who survived, who were able to keep their genes alive to get where we are today, to be here on the planet and to have accomplished and created what we have as a humanity. And when you think about it, people do not have hairy bodies, big claws, or fangs, or bad odor. Well, I guess not always, not typically. And so when we think about predators and other mammals out there, they have these protective features, right? But as humans, we don't. We have soft skin, we're not that big. We have teeth that can chomp on food, but not to battle with other mammals. And so we had another, but we had something else that these other species did not have. And that is our ability, our executive functions, our ability to communicate, cooperate, organize, share ideas, come up with goals, problem solve. And it's because of these alliances, it's because of these networks that we have been able to survive and accomplish all that we have. So I think really first and foremost, we need to recognize that, give gratitude for it, and then leverage this really important trait.
I agree. I mean, if we weren't social beings, there would be no offspring, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Just the bonding feature of caring for our offspring. Absolutely. And we are compelled to do that, right? Because there's beautiful, powerful, happy neurochemistry that gets activated when we connect with others. Namely the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. We can talk more about those, but in general, being with others is a source of pleasure and joy. Now, that doesn't mean we're always getting along with each other, and we definitely need time on our own and our own independence and our own autonomy. But in general, when we come together with others, there's a sense of upliftment. But precursor to that even is the fact that, again, our survival depends on it. And the reality is that we're not good at everything. Others have motivations and skills and abilities that we don't have. So we need to share our resources. We need to share these skills and abilities and come together. So in a way, we're only as strong as our weakest link, but as a group, we exponentially grow in our abilities. And I think sometimes we forget that. I think in today's world too, we tend to be more isolated. We tend to be more on our devices. We tend to not have intergenerational living. Not everyone even reaches out and knows their neighbors. And so we are not using this really important ability and access to resources like perhaps we can. Having said that, we're here talking to folks in the longevity community, and it is a really wonderful community where people are encouraging each other, they're supporting each other, they're sharing ideas and resources. But that's a special thing, and I just think we need to create more of that.
Well, I know that I am so thankful for the network that I've created here on the Daily with Doc and Becca show. That includes all of my co-hosts, as they each have special skills and functions that they bring to it. Our special guest, like yourself, where you're bringing more empowering information to get us thinking. And there's some things that you don't, but you don't know until you actually hear it spoken. So I just appreciate all that you're bringing today. So
Thank you.
let's give like a little bit, what does this look like in our daily life? You touched on it, but what does it look like in our daily life?
Well, of course, there's just the regular day occurrences where we engage in conversations, maybe by phone or in person or even online like this. It's really about doing things together. And maybe that's a sport or dancing or walking or hiking, just hanging out and visiting. Of course, socializing also occurs in classrooms and in boardrooms and in community centers, places of worship. So you can think about in your own life, where are you getting that positive impact and influence of community in your own life? And it's very important to see, am I getting enough of it, right? And again, we do need our own time. We need time to unplug and be in our own space and reflect and meditate and just go according to our own pace. But the reality is, research shows that when there's a lack of social interaction with others, we actually have a smaller brain, especially in the area of the prefrontal cortex, the executive function area. And that just goes to show that we are meant to execute actions that are for the greater good, and that others can collaborate on, and that once again we share our skills and resources and ideas. So our brain is, and then it affects our mental health too, of course. So when we are in isolation, we are not activating those happy brain neurochemicals, and instead we're experiencing the stress hormones of cortisol, which of course causes the opposite of that, was the inflammation and depression, and also markers of health issues, really. Immune response. It can lead to, this maybe sounds like a stretch, but the reality is research shows that people who are not living in healthy social community and connection are more susceptible to heart disease, diabetes, forms of dementia, obesity, skin condition. It really, even early demise. So there's actually a really cool research study called the Rossetto effect. And it was done in the mid 20th century, and it's actually done in Pennsylvania there, Becca, so in your neck of the woods. And what's really cool about this is there was this tight-knit Italian community, and they found that they had a much lower rate of heart disease and illness than neighboring communities. And so it's like, what was the difference? And they really attributed it to how these communities work together, how these people supported each other, encouraged each other, they were there for each other. And even though they didn't have other healthy lifestyle habits, because it wasn't that they were smoking less or eating better or supplementing more, this was the main component or the main difference between these communities. And then to even prove it further, with modern day society coming in more, their tight-knit connections started to dwindle, and people became more independent. They weren't as community oriented, and in sync with that lack of community connection was a rise in the health conditions that other neighboring communities were dealing with and susceptible to. So you can look this up online. It's very fascinating, but there's tons of research on the benefit of social connections and interactions being a really significant determining factor in our health and wellness.
Well, and I see it every day, or communicating with different clients, in my own family and others that I support where they don't have families that are there and active in their lives. And it breaks my heart. And I know I can only do so much. I have to keep reminding myself of that. But you are absolutely right. When the socialization is limited or gone, the demise can starts.
It really does. It really
Absolutely.
does. And you know, we're meant to communicate with others, right? Because that activates our brain in a very special way. That giving of receiving of information, as our dear friend, pharmacist Ben Fuchs, he likes to say, information informs our brain and puts our brain in formation. So we form our brain as we're learning, as we're developing connections. And when we are speaking with others, it really requires us to be alert. It requires us to think about what they said, comprehend it, respond accordingly, especially if you're debating someone. And healthy debate is a really good thing to have, especially if you're teaching something, right? So you need to be prepared. You need to know your stuff. Even just having a real intimate, sensitive conversation. All of these things are skills that are required. And so we need to get off our devices and not just be texting or scrolling and having these really important and meaningful conversations. There's a term called interbrain synchrony. And that's when, and you and I are having this right now, Becca, even though we're at a distance from each other, our brain waves are synchronizing. And because we are in this conversation where we're sharing ideas, we're going back and forth, we're adhering to a particular topic. And so that synchrony is really important because this neurological dialogue between people uh, uplifts us. Because when people have these conversations where they feel like they learned something or they had an aha moment or they just felt like they felt understood, it's like they have this feeling of, wow, we're really on the same wavelength. Well, you literally are. You're on the same brain wavelength. And that, again, gives us a boost. And in our day-to-day life, we need as many opportunities as possible. We need to implement strategically, be conscientious of this, opportunities to elevate our happy neurochemicals, to reduce our stress and feel better. And this type of engagement, for those who are listening or chiming in on the chat or simply on your phone, just listening into the conversation, it's a good thing. It's benefiting you.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk more about how the community plays a role in our lives.
Well, it's interesting because community can be small and it can be big. And we can look at just a small family of just, even 2 or 3 people to the community in our neighborhood. And maybe we get together for social gatherings, street fairs, just barbecues, picnics. Then again, of course, when we start to play actual team sports together or do activities that are more organized, those have health benefits. And you can see in each one, or your workplace for that matter. Maybe you work in a smaller retail store or a big organization, or independently as a longevity associate. So it plays out differently in all those ways. And I think what I've come to notice for myself, and according to the research, is we need variety. We need to have just being with the same people in the same environment over and over again. Yes, builds certain neural pathways, but as you know from what my talk a couple weeks ago, what we do over and over again, we not only get the same results, we are ingraining neural pathways in a similar or repetitive manner. So what we need to do is get some diversity, change it up. Recently, I took up ballroom dancing. I was encouraged to because my daughter started taking classes at a nearby studio. And I had, growing up, I danced in fitness classes. That was really the place I danced. I really didn't have much dance training, but when I was exercising and dancing, I thought this feels great. And having the instructor lead us and having great music
Mhm.
and the group effect really kept me engaged, right? And I had fun. So it didn't feel like exercise was enjoyable. It didn't feel like hard work. So I've done that over the years and exercise and sports in various capacities. And I find, again, the ones I do on my own, I do enjoy, but I also, of course, get so much out of the team or group experience. Well, more recently, doing this ballroom dancing, you dance with a partner. And it's interesting because you switch partners as you go along because it's a group where you come independently and whoever shows up and you just take turns. And it's really interesting how the body has to listen to the cues, whether you're a lead or a follow, it's different, but there's this amazing interplay. And I can tell that that has transferable effects because I can just feel my balance improving overall. I can feel just the way I move generally. Because again, these different experiences add to our brain mapping and they help us to fortify a more resilient, we call cognitive reserve. And it's interesting because dance is considered one of the brain building strategies to ward off dementia and to keep our brain thick and lush and healthier longer. So I personally am I'm very new to this. It's only been not just about maybe a year now, actually. But there's people who've been dancing since they were toddlers, right? In this capacity, and they're doing competitions and performances. That's not my goal. My goal is to be able to go out and social dance, and that's what it's called, social dancing. Isn't that neat?
I think it's awesome. One of my favorite types of show are those time period shows that are centered around getting together and having events and functions and dances and, the whole thing. And I absolutely love it. And that's just something that is, for the most part, lost in society with having to interact with individuals that way rather than free-form dancing, which, yes, you're getting the exercise and the movement, but not the syncing and the synchronity with interacting with other individuals.
Exactly,
So
exactly. And it's interesting you said synchronicity or synchronizing because our brain loves it when we synchronize with others. So when we do something in tandem, so following, for example, an instructor, and we're all doing the same moves together on the beat of the music, you can just feel stress go down and the happy neurochemicals go up. And there's a sense of power in numbers, like the energy increases exponentially. And I just encourage people to go out and try it. You don't have to become a professional. You don't have to take this seriously. Do it for fun. Be curious. Explore new possibilities of movement. And ultimately, I highly recommend with others. Obviously, going out for a walk on your own based on your schedule and just getting outdoors and getting fresh air and solar energy is very important. That cross-lateral movement, very key. But when we can incorporate other people, there's a positive value and effect that we just can't get on our own.
yeah. And haven't you noticed when you go someplace that the vibe of the room is kind of set by the person in charge, where we ourselves can actually raise it or lower it, and those that are close to us. And that has to do with the whole brain being a social organ too, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I'm just going to share an interesting feature here because when we're sitting still for too long, our brain kind of goes into screensaver mode. But when we're with others, it is even more contradictory for our brain because when we're with others, there's a feeling like we should be connecting. So the best like leaders and presenters are going to kind of ask rhetorical questions, invite the group to be comfortable, to ask questions, to do a Q&A or to do a little breakout with the partners and the people involved, because the more interaction, the better for our brain, the better for our learning. Absolutely. And there's another point you said there. Oh, well, it'll come back to me, I hope. There's
It'll
another
come
point I was
back to
going to
you.
build on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
And
I
there's
know what it
different
was.
places.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so I know now. I know where it is. When we cheer, when groups get excited, so when you're at a game where your team is winning, or you just listening at a concert to one of your favorite performers and you're cheering and you're singing, that is really healthy for the brain. So those are other venues where you don't have to necessarily be on the field playing. You can be part of the audience who is cheering the performers or the athletes on. And even the act of clapping is a really important activity for our brain. It gets both brain hemispheres working together simultaneously. And so it's like it refreshes us, it resets us when we clap and cheer.
That's awesome. So even going to church and
Yes.
where they
Oh,
have, the singing part and the praise and worship part of the service,
yes.
you're doing that interacting and speaking out as one with the singing, which falls right into this as well, being a place that your brain can have some social connections, and then everybody listening as one. That's another place too.
Yeah, well
So,
said. I'm
and
happy you brought up the worship side too, because there's a spiritual energy and there's a faith that comes in that is also part of the brain, actually. It's a higher part of the brain. So again, we're moving from stress to wholeness, to happiness. And I was talking about this with Ben not long ago, and we were talking about how the cells of our body need to work together as a unified whole, and how the one cell has a ripple effect communicating messages to all its surrounding cells and beyond. Well, just like our cells need to, communicate healthfully together as a team, as a united system experience, that is the microcosm of the macrocosm of our society, and having people working together in harmony and sharing responsibilities and sharing resources and ideas. So health and wholeness happens through the connection and community as well.
no, absolutely. And Shantae brought up when she was homeschooling, it was social overdrive, and I agree. There's a lot of times people like myself, we homeschool. There's not a quality school close by, but we need to make that effort to make sure that our kids are getting in a healthy environment where they can learn to socialize as well, because their brain is going to function better. Just goes back to our brain is not meant to, or we are not meant to live in isolation.
Oh, well
So
said, well said. And homeschooling, that's why homeschooling communities find others, right? And they join together to create pods and share teaching skills. Different parents can lead different activities and they go on excursions. I know many homeschoolers. In fact, my daughter was homeschooled one year, in fact, many years ago for her grade 3 year. And we did a variety of things. We did a lot at the library. I helped and did what I could. Her grandmother got involved. We actually, for a segment of time, hired a retired grade 3 teacher because we wanted to make sure we were on track with the curriculum, because it was kind of a special circumstance that year turned out like that. And so I hadn't been planning on homeschooling months or years prior. It was more of a surprise. This is what we're going to do this year. And another thing is she joined volunteered at a local farm, and horses became her community. And she really got involved with the farmers, the people who ran the farm there, who tended to the animals, and she learned from them. And then she also felt very connected with the personalities of the horses because she really got to know them. So this is with people, but also with our animals, with our pets. We can see that socialization.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so thankful my son has his dogs that he can interact with. And we had a tutor for a number of years where they would get on Zoom and they would talk, and she'd give him challenges and they would have fun, not just, here's your assignment, do it type thing. So
Yeah.
Okay, folks, if you're not getting anything out of this show today, it's okay, because I'm getting a lot. So I know somebody else is as well. And then Olga brings up the whole where the Bible talks a lot about meditation between you and your Lord, your God, where there's that connection as well. So I just want to take this moment, because I know there was a special time in your life where there were some great concerns with your mom, where you found this community and family and made the connection that then brought in your skills and knowledge to help us be able to benefit from what you do as well. So share with us your mom's story.
Oh, thank you, Becca. You know, this is really a story of community as well, and sharing resources and coming together and learning and growing. So when my mom's 83 now, and I think she's tuning into the show because she really enjoys these programs and is always learning. That being 83 now, and considered a super ager, meaning she's living independently and very healthfully at her age, and she's very involved in her community, at her church, with her friends, education groups. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. She's a tough act to follow because she's very active and very involved. So that wouldn't be the case, though, if it wasn't for over 25 years prior, in her mid to late 50s, when she was dealing with health concerns and decline, had the solution and community that we're now part of, had it not come into our lives. And so what that looked like, I'll first explain what she started noticing. She just wasn't feeling that great. Her energy was low. She was snacking more. She was gaining weight. Her hair was starting to change, and skin. She was getting age spots, and her hair was coming in gray more quickly. She started getting teeth issues. So she'd go to the dentist, and they were like, "You need to see the periodontist. Your gums are receding. Your teeth are, I guess, declining. I don't know. They just weren't as strong. They weren't as fortified." And they basically we're just going to have to give you more dental care. She had issues with pain. That was the big issue too, because it would keep her up at night, which would affect her sleep, which would affect her mood and her energy the next day. In fact, even during the days when she was working, sometimes she'd have to take a break because she was in significant discomfort. So all of these things were going on. And she started to think, I need to go to see the doctor. There's nothing that was actually debilitating, but overall, she could see that her health was going downhill. Now, of course, we understand today those are the early warning signs, and you pay attention to the early warning signs. You don't ignore them. So thankfully, she did know enough to that she needed to look into this and see what was going on. So she went to the family doctor and explained what was happening. And basically, the best he could do was say that that's just the natural aging process. And based on her age, she was going to be 60 in a few years. There was really nothing that could be done. She just needed to kind of accept it. But he wrote out a prescription for painkillers because he said the pain she was experiencing was the early stages of rheumatoid arthritis. And that, again, nothing could be done. So here's a prescription to mask the pain. So my mom left that appointment very disheartened. And she kind of was like, she knew enough because she was health minded in a way that growing up, we played sports, and my mom did make homemade meals, and she did shop at the health food store, and we took some supplements here and there. So she was open-minded to healthy practices. And that was probably what made her really think, well, I don't want to take a prescription painkiller that will have side effects, and it's just going to mask my problem. So I could be getting worse and not even know it. Right. So she proceeded to put that prescription aside and continue to search for answers. And there's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. She was watching a a well-known TV news show in Canada called Breakfast Television. It's a morning show, and they have guests on and cover local news and in different provinces. And she was tuning into that, and lo and behold, there's this veterinarian, primary care physician, naturopath, this one man with all these wonderful credentials talking about chronic degenerative disease and what that looks like. And as he's describing the symptoms, my mom is glued to the TV thinking, I'm a textbook classic case of CDD and my body's breaking down basically. And the wonderful thing is, and of course we all know who this was, Dr. Joel Wallach, he was able to say that you can reverse this. Like you have to rebuild. That's all. You have to give your body what it needs. And that includes healthy eating, taking out the bad stuff, putting the good stuff in, and then supplementing properly. So again, my mom was really open-minded to this concept already, and it just really landed that finally someone was speaking directly to her issues and had real solutions. And so she called me right after, and this is where the story gets very synchronistic, because she called me and said, Jill, I think I found the solution for my health issues. You've got to help me find this incredible doctor. He was just on breakfast television. And then she proceeds to explain what she had heard and who this was. And I said, was he promoting a book called Let's Play Doctor? And she said, yes. How did you know? Were you watching the show as well? And I said, well, no, but I can connect you with him. In fact, I can introduce you to him in person. Because Becca, back then, when all this was occurring, I was hosting and producing a wellness TV show in our own community. And one of our viewers had heard that Doc Wallach was coming to town and he was promoting his new book, and he was a must-have for local media because it was an important message to get out there. So thankfully, again, with community, a community television program, we were taking suggestions from viewers. When he sent in this recommendation, this email, I was like, this sounds great. This sounds like the type of doctor we'd want on our program, being a health and wellness show. And so I said to my mom, I said, he's in Toronto for that interview, but he's coming into the York region area north of the city to do more shows, and he's going to be a guest on my program in a couple of days. So we couldn't believe it. She comes to the studio that day. They sit in the green room, and basically, they just click. He explains to her what's going on, this degeneration, and these are natural symptoms and they're early warning signs, and now you need to course correct. And he gave her some suggestions with her diet, the good food, bad food list kind of thing, and then got her on the 90 and just started there. And the 90 essential nutrients, right? And she just listened. She said, she just knew in her heart of hearts, this was the answer. And once she started tweaking her diet and doing things like taking out gluten and, other certain things that we shouldn't have, lowering sugar and all sorts of things, most importantly, adding in the supplements because her body was deficient, she noticed a difference very quickly. More energy, less cravings, sleeping better, just gradually. And then over weeks and months to come, the pain's going away. Her skin is looking more vibrant. The age spots even start to go away. She had had some bruising and varicose veins that were starting to get to the point where she stopped wearing shorts in the summer because she didn't like the look of it. That was healing up. Went to the dentist, and they said, you must be flossing a lot, Helen, because her gums are stronger and growing back. And not knowing and that she wasn't flossing, she was following Doc Wallach's message. She was listening to a veterinarian, primary care physician, naturopath, who really has done the research and has proven that all mammals, anything with a vertebrae requires our nervous system, our spine, our brain, our whole system requires, our cells require these 90 essential nutrients. And once you give them what they need, amazing things will happen. And she is amazing. She's a testimonial to that process. She's been very committed. decades later, she still takes all of her nutrition and eats healthy. She's got fantastic willpower, but you really develop that over time because it's practice, really. It's just habit and practice. And yeah, so that was the entrance into learning about Doc, experiencing in our own life. It also benefited my sister, which I'll share on another interview. I'll save that story, and my father, and all of us for that matter. Myself, I've got my own examples of how it has such a positive impact. Along with the health benefits, has been part of the education and being part of a community that wants to learn and grow and share resources. So for many years after that first interview, Doc Wallach was my most popular and reoccurring guest. Every spring and fall when he came to the Toronto area, I would interview him. And then our family got involved at the Metro Toronto Convention Center, a really big convention center, probably the biggest one in Canada. And they'd have these biannual health shows. And so every spring and fall, Doc Wallach would come up, he'd do some lectures, we'd have a booth, we'd answer questions. And Becca, I'm sure you've seen this before, lineups of people there to talk to him, and reoccurring people, like literally in tears, saying, Doc, you were the only person who understood and had what the health issue was and what I could do about it. And it's been such a joy and such a sense of empowerment to be amongst people who are on this same page and are on this mission together.
It absolutely is. And, you know, you're absolutely right. When I was touring with Doc and we were doing the different shows, like Contact in the Desert, people that had been listening to him on the radio for years would come up, and some of them, it's like, is Doc Wallach here? You know, and I'm like, yeah, he's sitting right there. She's like, I have been listening to him for years. Does he have any new books? You know, and wanting to have their picture taken with them and asking him questions. And he would sit there for hours just visiting with people, just really wanting to know, okay, what are you dealing with? What can I do to help you? And he would help us then. Okay, this person needs this, this, and this. We would get that set up for that individual, and they're so thankful. And I'm so thankful that I heard him on the radio. And well, my ex-husband heard him on the radio, told me about it, and I was able to benefit from it. So I can't have any, you know, malice for my ex-husband, because it has brought me to where I am now. And being able just to share this message like you is an honor, because it really does meet people where they're at. And when you're nutritionally deficient, your body is a sponge when you give it what it wants. Just soak it up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our cells are waiting to be fed properly. And to starve our cells is sad. It's like working against health, working against our life force, working against our healthy active aging potential. I mean, but a lot of people don't know. And you're right, Doc Wallach is dedicated to educating, and he's written so many books and hundreds of scientific research papers, and you know, his bestsellers. And then of course with his wife Milan, with her expertise in health, I mean, they cover so much ground. And it's not a surprise he's been nominated for a Nobel Prize, and that his work is in the Smithsonian Library, and you know that people to this day you know, talk about him, rave about him, and have health testimonials because of him.
Yeah. And also because of his work on selenium, getting the Klaus Schwartz Award for that. And Dr. Milan, she's just she's quiet, and you can just look in her eyes and see her intelligence. And whenever she speaks, it's just brilliance coming out. I loved the years that I was able to spend with both of them. And both of them folks are still alive, still thriving. So I get that all the time. Where's Doc? What happened to Doc? Well, he was on the road for decades, like close to 40 years. I think he's earned a break.
No kidding. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And his message, his legacy is so big and so powerful and being carried on by so many people. I think he can be content in the fact that the ripples are continuing and they're getting stronger because we're in a world that needs this more than ever. And then you've got
Yeah.
wonderful people like, pharmacist Ben Fuchs, a dear friend of all of ours, and an educator and mentor for us. I mean, he comes in and teaches the biochemistry. People are
Yeah.
becoming smarter and more savvy and sharing information, and it's through communities. And I'm noticing such a rise in health and wellness clinics in Canada, and people who are switching over from the regular allopathic conventional medical system to working in a community oriented fashion in these clinics, and that there's more holistic practices. Speaking of my TV show, I'll just add this in. Another really popular guest someone who is well known that I interviewed at one of the health shows was Dr. Patch Adams. And he's the clowning doctor, and he's a full, like, licensed medical doctor, but he was known for going in and working with people from a very healthy, holistic, foundational place. I mean, he brought in humor, he brought in the arts, he brought in the power of community, because he knew if someone was isolated and they weren't moving and they weren't having fun, they weren't going to get better. So, he's another example of a doctor who understood just a different approach, a different lens. But again, this is about a holistic approach that has success rates, because we are whole systems. We can't fractionate or isolate certain organs to get better. We can't do that in our lifestyle either.
That's right. So, Dr. Patch Adams. So he was actually Hunter Doherty Patch Adams. I'd go by Patch Adams too, just to shorten it up. But he's the founder of the Gesundheit Institute, if I remember right.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And as you mentioned allopathic, that reminded me of something that you had said earlier, where people would go to the doctor. Your mom went to the doctor. She was having these pains. They gave her a painkiller to mask the symptoms, not realizing that it's not stopping the damage.
Exactly.
And folks, depending on the pharmaceutical that you're on, not only is it not stopping the damage, but what other damage could it be happening? Because our body is not a chemical. We're not made, and that there's kind of a fine line between, you've got the whole periodic table, and with them being, minerals and chemicals and blah, blah, blah. I can't believe I just said that. But we're nutrient based, not artificial based, natural beings.
Yeah. Yes.
So why would we poison our body?
So well said. And with all these synthetic ingredients and toxins and excitotoxins and man-made things, when we need to get back to nature, like you said, the periodic table and just the plant-derived minerals. They're from a prehistoric mine, sourced right from the earth, already pre-digested. Our cells know what to do with them, and it's just about providing it.
Yep, absolutely. Now, AJ has a question. He says, not to be a Daryl Downer, but can coming in contact with some people drain your brain?
Well, you know what's interesting you say that, because, and I've got a couple activities I'd like to share with you to support that community connection. But it made me think of the whole idea of trees, because trees, so resources are important for life. And so trees actually compete for resources, space within the soil, nutrients, water. And at the same time, it's been shown, I can't remember the name of the book. Someone might know it and they can share it in the chat. I think it's the something, the life of trees, the mysterious life of trees, anyway, it's about the life of trees, and it's the science behind it. And it's been shown that trees are part of communities. And we talk about the World Wide Web. Well, this is referred to the Wood Wide Web, and of trees that are made of wood. And basically, they also exchange nutrients. They also share water. They also give warning signals to other trees. The hidden life of trees. Yes, that's right, or the secret life of trees. Thank you. Um, they warn other trees about pests and drought, and they actually nurture the kin much in this complex forest community. So my point being here is it's normal to be competitive. Resources can be scarce. It's typical for humans to get activated with their cortisol and stress. And when we're in a stress response, we're not thinking win-win, we're thinking win-lose or lose-lose. And so it's going to happen. And just certain people get along more easily than others. They're more readily on the same wavelength than others. But overall, if we know that, we have to manage that. We need time on our own. We need to refill our own well. We need our own, time to unplug and just be in our own energy, in our own space. And then we need to balance that with community. And when we are with others, it's going to be, don't judge it, accept it, that certain people you're just going to jive with more than others. And it's going to be a natural thing. And don't judge yourself or be hard on yourself if that's the case. I've found that when certain people kind of irk me, I look closer into what's that about? Like, what am I afraid of? Or what is that trigger? Or how can I be the change in this situation? Or how can I just be more patient? Or maybe set a boundary, right? So we have to manage things effectively. And the reality is, if we are dehydrated, if we're nutritionally deficient, if we haven't slept enough, if we haven't had enough exercise or solar power, then when we come to our relationships, we're not going to be the change we want to see. We're not going to be those healthy, positive leaders with others or co-creators with others. So as much as community affects our health, our state of health affects what we can bring to community and relationships. So that's kind of an indirect answer, AJ, but I kind of talked about it from a circular perspective, but I hope that landed, because I think that we can't put the expectations on ourselves that we'll always get along and community will be perfect. And any discord is really an opportunity to learn and overcome that, like to be more creative, to be more innovative, to problem solve more effectively, to make new choices, to shift in our own state, to be maybe more patient or positive.
And some days we get more education on that than others. It's normal, folks. We just learn to be the best self of our own self that we possibly can. Well, Jill, you had talked about some exercises or activities that we can do to support our social brain. We've got 10 minutes. Let's go for it.
Okay, great. So speaking of trees, I'm going to take us through a tree embodiment activity. So we talked about briefly on, meditation and spirituality and how healthy that is for us. And when we take care of ourselves, when we fill our own well, we have more to bring to others and to our communities. And so there are some people probably who are listening in who like meditating and do it daily, and that's great. If you want to add this to your repertoire, please do. For those who want to meditate but are confused on how to do it, or just never kind of feel comfortable sitting still, this is for you. And the benefits of doing an activity like this I'm going to take you through is to bring your system into a more calm, clear, coherent state, so that you can then carry that balanced and positive energy into the world with whoever you meet, or your friends and family, or your clients, or potential longevity clients and customers. But again, it's about being the change. And so starting with ourselves, what we can do is this quick, it's going to take us about a minute or two. Okay, what you're going to do is just sit comfortably in your chair and bring your feet flat to the ground. And if you're on a chair that your feet can't fully touch, then scoot forward a bit on the chair. Keep yourself safe so you're not going to topple over here, but a bit more forward so your feet are on the ground and you're feeling supported. There's a saying in brain fitness, the more stable, the more able. The more stable our body is, the more able our brain is. So you're just going to sit at the edge of your chair. You're going to have your feet to the ground. And then just notice your posture. Just sitting more upright, shoulders down and back, chest open. You want to make space for easy breathing. Not to force anything, just a constant invitation to come back into better posture, lengthening a bit. So there's lots of room for flow. Just like in a tree, we've got the xylem and phloem. We've got in our own system, we need the neurochemicals, the cerebral spinal fluid, everything to be able to flow properly. And so what you're going to do is you're seated here, now you're going to start to put your attention on your breathing. And you can imagine your breath coming up through your body, right up through your roots, maybe that are connecting your feet to the ground, right up through your legs, your lower body, your core, up through your head, and even bring up your arms on either side as branches. And we'll do this a few times just for some deep breaths and making more space. So you're going to breathe in and then exhale and bring the arms down. And we just do this gentle movement. This movement helps support the brain in its ability to calm and get present, actually. Because it's hard for the brain to just sit still, especially if we've been very busy or stressed. It's hard to then just to sit still and meditate. So now you're doing that again. Breathe in, breathing up that wonderful, refueling that oxygen up through your whole system, up through your arms, out in all directions, up through your head. And exhale again. And then this last one, this one more time, we're going to breathe it up again, maybe a deeper breath, bigger breath in, bring it right up. Open those arms and then lift your head like you're lifting it to the sunlight. Imagine a nice bright beam of sunshine on you. And smile. And then exhale. Wonderful, wonderful. Now you're just going to hold this here with your palms upright, either on your lap or on your desk, wherever it's comfortable for you. And take some more deep breaths. Feeling, inviting an ease and a flow. Feeling taller and longer. Maybe more energized. And then to complete that activity, we're going to come right into the center of our system in front of our heart, and we're going to rub our hands together, creating a nice electrical activation between our body, our hands, but also represents a connection between the left and right sides of our brain, activating that electrical currency, and then opening the hands on either side of you, palms slightly up and out. And just imagine as you're breathing here in this heart space, knowing that our heart is an electrical unit as well, and it's much even more powerful than our brain in its strength and its the distance that it conveys messages. And so just take a moment and imagine you're sending out heart waves, heart energy to your friends and family, to the community around you, to people in need, to communities and cities and countries far and wide. As you send this out in all direction, you are being filled even more with these wonderful happy neurochemicals as you feel connected to the greater good, to communities and the world around you. And then in your own time, I invite you to bring your hands gradually back together. It's not a race. Take your own time. They will naturally find each other until your hands and your fingertips connect right in front of your heart. Holding them there, just in front of you, lightly touching. And this last piece of this embodied tree meditation is to give gratitude. And whatever that is for you, for showing up today, for learning something new, for being part of this community, whatever it is, just taking a moment to give gratitude. And then let your hands come together, interlace your fingers, give them a squeeze, and then bring them to your lap. And take a moment to do a scan from head to toe and back up again, noticing any changes in how you're seated, in your posture, in your energy levels, in your breathing. And there you go. We've just done a mini tree embodiment meditation.
Well, and just before we started that, Angie had mentioned that trees are standing humans. So it says, yeah, trees are standing people.
Oh, that's a
So
great way
I
to
think
look at it.
Angie may have seen you before or may know you personally. That's
Oh, that's great.
fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jill, for all of the information that you brought and for sharing your mom's testimony and how you found this community. And you know, unlike any other kinetic any other community that I've been in where you know direct cells were involved, it was every man for themselves, and that's not us at all. Where we are working together with like minds to help individuals around the world be empowered and have the information so that they can be wiser and more educated when it comes to how their bodies work and what we can do to support that, including the brain. So thank you so much, Jill. We greatly appreciate you having on here with us. We look forward to the next time that you join us. So folks, make sure that you go to the website, sign up for the email list so that you will know when we have Ms. Jill Hewlett on Daily with Doc and Becca. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If I could get our co-hosts up on the screen with us, I can't believe the hour is already again gone around the clock. Do a thank you that we don't have to do this show by ourselves, as today we are joined by Rod, who's helping to keep an eye on all the different platforms. Thank you, Rod. Bring in any questions if questions come in. And Phyllis is doing a little of the same. She is also putting information into the chat. So is Sherry, as Sherry's part of my technical team as we're getting everything set up an hour before the show starts. Thank you so much, Sherry. And AJ, who's not on the screen yet. Oh, yes, he is. How come? So what I see here and what's there are different. But thank you, AJ. And as he's part of the tech team as well. And thank you, Albert, as he is letting people into the Zoom room and keeping an eye on the place as well. You know, we're community. And folks, if you're looking for a community of positive people with a heart to help others, get back with the person that shared this program with you and say, how can I be part of this amazing community, helping others go from just surviving to thriving? Again, this program is being sponsored by dailywithdoc.com. If you found this program on your own or you've never spoken to anybody about longevity and you want more information about the 90, we do have a call team standing by for those who are not already connected with somebody. That number is 855-949-3377. Again, 855-949-3377. 3377. When you call, you're going to get one of the co-hosts that you see on the screen. Also, there's a couple others, as we have been able to create a community of, again, like-minded people wanting to help others thrive. And you can be part of that as well. Jill, thank you once again, as you are helping our brain thrive with the importance of nutrition plus exercises that we can do to help ourselves that are not hard. They're
That's
simple.
true. Yeah, right. They're meant to be simple, easy, and effective. And just like taking your daily supplements, you take your daily brain tune-ups and brain strategies, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to lift heavy weights like Rod. Just, that's easy. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you next time on Daily with Doc and Becca. Bye for now.
This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We're honored to continue and share the teachings of the founding father of science of epigenetics, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We're honored to continue and share the teachings of the founding father of science of epigenetics, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care